peace, and blessed Wednesday. So, I am actually here gonna go get me Smoothie King. Knowing which aspect of yourself is under a certain influence. How do you know? Everything is dictated about how you feel. When you are in the mind and the mind is taking over and it's making up their stories, it's making up its assumptions about things and people and places and experiences, and it doesn't make you feel good, you probably more than likely are under the influence of the mind and ego. If you are in a space where you feel beautiful, amazing, you feel happy, you feel joyful, you have this optimistic mindset, you are under the influence of your inner being. Let me go get the Smoothie King. All right, so being able to know the difference, right? So be careful when you listen to people that talk about you being too emotional. So I really do understand the aspect of being too emotional to where your emotional intelligence isn't guided by your inner being, right? So not having emotional intelligence is when you begin to act out. You don't take the time to observe the emotions that may come up, so you respond in a very abrupt and sometimes disrespectful way, and it's coming from a place of ego because something's been triggered. And part of our lives and part of self-awareness is being able to know when you're responding from your inner being and when you're responding from a trigger. So what ends up happening is that emotional intelligence is a beautiful thing, and it's a beautiful thing as far as your relationship with yourself, because oftentimes the things that we respond to and the things that trigger us is really just an illusional aspect of a program that we have attached ourselves to, right? It isn't, sometimes it's not even our truth. So if something makes you feel triggered, you have to have the emotional intelligence to be able to define or to recognize how this is making you feel, and then instead of being reactive, be more observant and deal with it within yourself first before you try to blame somebody else and not take accountability for your emotions. And so oftentimes you will hear people say that you're too emotional and you're too this. And I totally respect that, but our emotions are actually needed because it's a part of our communication to our conscious self that something is off, and you'll be able to tell when something is off according to how you feel. And so, it's self-awareness and self-observance is really something that I think we take for granted. And we oftentimes live in a very robotic state of oneself. And if we don't get in tuned with that powerful inward being, that inward GPS that is communicating with you and that is guiding you in order to have more of a nurturing and pleasant journey, then that's when you begin to experience chaos and discomfort and anxiety and depression, because you're living in a dynamic of yourself that is falsehood. You're living in a space of that has different identities, and your inner being is like, no, I'm good. This is not serving you anymore, and I need you to allow yourself to let go. So especially with the Leo new moon today. Oh, my drink's ready. So a lady just heard me speaking on here, doing my video, and she was like, "Are you a therapist?" So I just got me a consultation, scheduled her a consultation, so that was awesome. She was like, "I just couldn't help but overhear what you were saying. I'm going through a lot of things." Anyways, yeah, as I was saying, emotional intelligence and how important it is to be able to witness yourself going through certain aspects, and to be able to make those conscious choices of moving yourself into a different space and knowing when and how. and what influence you're under, you know. A lot of people out here, you can just see, they're just always angry and this and that, and yeah, they're probably all in their head, and oftentimes maybe they really weren't taught, you know, the aspect of their inner selves. So it's important to evaluate where you stand. And the beautiful thing about it is that there is a place within you that is able to renew every single day, every single hour, every minute, every second. You know, right where you stand is not the end all be all of oneself. And I think that that's one of the best gifts that we've actually had in this lifetime, is to be able to witness ourselves, observe ourselves, take accountability for ourselves, and then reset the dynamic of ourselves. And so that's what I was going to say too. This Leo new moon today, it's all about creativity and your inner child. You know, it's being able to have fun and enjoy. And, you know, I encourage you to maybe find some things about yourself today that, you know, you haven't done, that your inner child has been wanting to do, whether it's art, whether it's painting, whether it's dancing, whether it's hula hooping, whether it's roller skating. You know, do something. And then, of course, setting your intentions, you know, is important. Setting your intentions today. And, of course, just ending it all with gratitude. You know, this is all an experiment, which is causing an experience. And the more that we're able to relate to it as an experiment and an experience, you don't hold on to your experience so solid. You know, it begins to be a very fluid dynamic, and it begins to be very observant. And when you do this, instead of clenching and holding on so tight to what you feel is your truth, the expansiveness comes in, more experiences come in, the more understanding of oneself comes in, the awareness of oneself comes in, you know, acknowledging oneself and having that understanding of oneself comes in. It just all begins to kind of click and come into place and make sense. And then you begin to look at your life a whole lot differently, and you're able to cherish your life a whole lot differently, because now you're not coming from the ego-based, you're not coming from the poor me syndrome, you're not coming from the victim mentality mindset, you're coming from my inner being knows everything and all things. And that is the aspect of yourself in which you dwell. Not to say that contrast is not going to exist. We are going to experience contrast. That is just something that is going to be with us until there is no longer this physical body here dwelling in this earthly plane. But then it begins to be more about how you react and how you respond to that contrast. You know, you can either try to fight it, you can force it, you can be against it, you know what I'm saying? Or you can just observe it, recognize it, see it, and just be like it's part of the plan. You know, everything that's in your cipher, everything that is in your circle, the people around you, where you're at, the job that you're in, you created this simulation for yourself in order for you to observe yourself. It's kind of like you created this contrast in your life, and you also created the loving experiences in your life as well, in order to see yourself so that you can come out of the underworld of oneself. And there's always going to be you diving back into the underworld and coming back up for air, diving back into the underworld and coming back up for air. And that's okay. That's part of the journey. You know, so I just wanted to encourage you guys to not be so hard on yourselves, and just remember to observe which aspect of yourself is under a certain influence. And you're going to know this according to how you feel. We are natural lovers. We are naturally full of joy and peace and happiness. That is our natural state. Anything outside of that is the contrast of that. And so if it begins to cause you discomfort, you have attached yourself to that aspect of it. And now you have to get yourself into a space of getting back into your center. All right, so have a beautiful day, and Love you guys.